Today's Friday Forum is made possible by Bank of the Cascades, CenturyLink, Family Care Health Plan, Miller Nash, The Standard, and Stoll Reeves. Good afternoon, and welcome to the City Club of Portland Friday Forum. I am John Horvick, City Club President, and I'd like to welcome members and guests alike. Those of you who join us today at the Governor Hotel, and those of you listening on OPB Radio or watching on Portland Community Media. Before we begin with our program today, I would like to take a moment to acknowledge two education leaders we have in the audience with us today. Portland State University President Vin Pavel and Melody Rose, Chancellor of the Oregon University System. Thank you both for being in attendance with us today. Today, Dr. Jeremy Brown, President of Portland Community College, will lay out his vision for the future of the college, but first, some announcements. The generous support of City Club's corporate and media partners ensures we put on the best civic programs week after week. I'd like to thank our media partners, including Oregon Business Magazine. Our current Friday Forum sponsors are Bank of the Cascades, CenturyLink, Family Care Health Plans, Miller Nash, The Standard, and Stoll Reeves. We are grateful for your support and commitment to City Club's mission. Please join me in a warm round of applause for all of them. Join us next week for a Friday Forum on the state of equity when we talk about equal pay, income inequality, and the minimum wage. With over 50 applications, we are still seeking civic-minded people to participate in research committees that are forming now. There are a handful of issues that Oregon will face this next year. The nation's laws affecting juvenile sex offenders are changing. New evidence is begging questions related to how registries are handled. The 2015 legislature is likely to address this issue, but how will they decide? Washington and Colorado have legalized it. Will Oregon follow suit? Is this the right policy? Is now the right time to legalize marijuana? Abortion, perhaps the definition of a hot-button issue. Should public funds be available? The campaign to legalize marriage is holding signatures to qualify for the 2014 ballot, pending legal ruling, but other questions loom. Will opponents move forward with a religious protections initiative instead? These and other critical questions are facing Oregon. Understanding the full consequences in the coming year will be nearly impossible for any one person. And that's where you come in. We can't provide evidence-based, unbiased recommendations on these critical issues without you. So we're accepting applications for research studies, and they're due on March 4th. We'll be launching the studies in March and April. Please apply today at pdxcityclub.org. You can learn more about these and other club events, purchase tickets, and become a member on our website, again, pdxcityclub.org. As always, City Club will be live tweeting today's event. You can follow or mention us at PDX City Club and use the hashtag CityClub in your own tweets. We'll be having a Q&A session with Dr. Brown at the end of today's program. Members, please come to the microphone to ask your question. And for all our audience participants, please locate the index cards in the center of your tables and write your questions on them during the forum. We will collect them prior to the start of the Q&A. And now to our program. As the largest post-secondary institution in Oregon, Portland Community College serves approximately 90,000 full and part-time students. Whether training our community's workforce, preparing students for four-year schools, or leading the way in educational success and completion, Portland Community College contributes to the region's economic strength and prosperity. Dr. Brown took the reins of PCC in July 2013, becoming the college's 6th president. Now at the college for 8 months, Dr. Brown will share his views on PCC's unique role in achieving the state's 40-40-20 goal. That goal states that by 2025, all Oregon adults will hold a high school diploma or equivalent, with 40% gaining an associate's degree or meaningful post-secondary certificate, and 40% attaining a bachelor's degree or higher. Interviewing Dr. Brown today is Matthew Kish of the Portland Business Journal. Matthew covers the footwear and apparel sector, manufacturing, and higher education. He joined the paper in 2006, and he also teaches journalism at the University of Portland. Matt previously worked for the Indianapolis Business Journal, the Oregon Health Forum, and the Arizona Republic. He has won numerous awards from the Society of American Business Editors and Writers. And so now, without further ado, please join me in welcoming both to the stage.
Well, good afternoon, and it's a delight to be here today. And just wanted to point out that we have two tables of students from our communications class here, and so if you see them frantically writing notes or nodding badly saying, you know what's happening, because I'm sure that's going to be critiqued next week in class. As I said, I'm delighted to be here and delighted to be in Portland as well as the president of PCC, and I'll explain why in a bit. But let me give you a little bit of a personal background that hopefully doesn't sound too much like an obituary. But having come originally from England and spent more than half of my life in the United States, worked primarily on the East Coast. I was in the Ivy League for about 15 years as a faculty member and also as a dean. And then worked for 3 years briefly in Panama, in the Republic of Panama, at Florida State University, a campus in Latin America. And then following that, I worked for a while at the State University of New York in upstate New York, ostensibly transforming a 2-year college into a 4-year institution, and I'm building all sorts of partnerships within the State University of New York system. Followed that as a stint as president of a large regional institution in Pennsylvania, and then most recently as president of a private college in Long Island. That's a kind of the upshot of the professional career. By training, I guess I didn't expect to be here today. Frankly, I was really hoping that I'd be wearing the number 9 shirt for Manchester United. That call never came through, so my backup plan was to become a nuclear physicist, which actually did come true. And I was remarking yesterday that the great thing about being a nuclear physicist is that if you ever want a quiet airplane ride, and somebody sitting next to you asks you what you do, you just tell them you're a nuclear physicist, and you get to sleep for the whole time. It's great. We're delighted as a family to be here. I'm here with my wife, Rebecca, who I met in Panama, and also we have a 5-year-old son, Andrew, who's in the school system here. I also have 2 other boys, an 18-year-old and a 12-year-old who live with their mother. And the 18-year-old has finished high school, and he's now in this major quandary, and I'm sure you'll give me all sorts of advice. He's deciding whether he wants to be a Viking or a duck or a beaver. So I'm told that's pretty contentious, but I'll let you know how that all works out. I've been here since July 1st, been spending a lot of time listening and learning from everybody internally and externally to our campus, as well as throughout the state. It's really important coming in as a new leader, in essence, to try to be quiet and to listen more than you speak, and to gauge the temperature and the climate before you make any wild pronouncements and move forward. So that's been a lot of fun to learn about the positive perceptions of PCC, and it's one of the greatest surprises to me was how PCC is regarded within our district. We ran a survey in December of 2012, and in that survey, 66% of the households that we called had one or more family members who'd taken a course at PCC. It's a remarkable statistic. Of those, then about 70% said that they would rank their experience as good or excellent, not even average, good or excellent, 70%. 86% of those people would recommend PCC to somebody else. The people who ran this survey said, we don't see these types of statistics, and so really it's testament to our role as a college for the community, which I'll touch on later, I'm sure, as we recognize what our aspirations are in terms of being a partner within the community. A community college in the 21st century is a very different animal than when they were started. We started in 1961. We're not the same community college as we were over 53 years ago. We're doing a variety of different things, and it was touched on earlier. 45% of all undergraduates in the US are students at community colleges. Our students come from myriad backgrounds, not just in terms of recent high school graduates, but also people who want to be retrained or displaced workers. We also have people who are coming for us for a whole variety of different reasons, whether it's to learn English, whether it's to get a GED, to get a one-year certificate, a two-year degree program, or to develop a small business, or to workforce development. All of those things we offer. So, in essence, it's a really exciting time to be at a community college. The other side of it is that we also have to be mindful of the different needs of our students and their different expectations. And technology is a great example of that. Because we have such a wide range of students coming through our doors, then they have different expectations with respect to technology. And so we have to be mindful of that. We are, as I said, the largest institution in the state of Oregon, and it's good for us to play a significant role in the dialogue with respect to higher education in the state. And so it's great that I have an opportunity to be here and talk a little bit about PCC and our role on that front. I think just other facts that you should know, in our 53 years, we have educated more than 1.3 million people. We're the 19th largest community college in the United States. 40% of the graduating class of Portland State take classes at PCC. The student who invests $1 in their education at PCC sees a return on investment of over 7-fold. Taxpayers see a return on their investment of about 3.5 times. I think for me, though, the biggest thing about PCC, the biggest and greatest asset that we have are the people who work there. The faculty and the staff really do a tremendous job personalizing an experience in each and every one of our students. So as we think about the future of PCC, it revolves around the people at PCC. We're always going to be student-centered, but we also want to have a culture, and we have a really strong culture, of caring for our students and wanting them to be successful and feeling like we really do care of them as them for individuals. Of course, there are challenges, and we'll talk a little bit about that, I'm sure. Higher education is under intense scrutiny these days, nationally. There's a question about why does education cost so much? What is the value added? And for us, especially in terms of affordability and accessibility and success, those things are really important. And of course, as we think closer to home, what's our role in the 40-40-20 plan? And how do we also play a role in the development of the higher educational system, the new HEC, the Higher Education Coordinating Committee, looking at all things higher ed in the state. Workforce development, really important role for us in that. And also, I think one of the things that we tend to overlook is that students these days, they graduate from a program and they get a job. Then they get another job, then they get another job, then they change careers, then they have maybe 3 career changes in their lifetime. So what do we as institutions of higher education need to do to ensure that a student is successful in their first, second, third job and their first, second, third career? So we talk a lot about soft skills, those skills that are outside of the textbook, those skills that perhaps taught differently in the classroom and the environment outside of the classroom. Then, of course, we talk about our budget. The state budget in the 2 biennia ago was about 47% of our total revenue. It's now down to 31%. Our tuition revenue constitutes now 54% of our budget, whereas 2 biennia ago it was 36%. And even though 45% of all undergraduates in the US are at community colleges, only 1% of private philanthropy to higher education goes to community colleges, which is a shame given that the fact, the impact that you can have in giving to a community college is huge, just given the cost of education at a community college. Let me, though, reiterate that it's really an exciting time to be at PCC. We're unveiling and opening new buildings as part of the bond measure. We're undergoing a huge strategic planning process, which, when I normally mention that, people's eyes roll into the back of their head and go, we did that 5 years ago. It's somewhere in somebody's filing cabinet. But this is a different strategic plan for us because it's one that's going to mark PCC on the map. It's going to be innovative and creative. We're going to inculcate an entrepreneurial spirit on our campus. And also, we're going to set ourselves some really audacious goals, rather like the 40-40-20. And we're also going to identify what we call blue oceans, new spaces where we can operate and really explore avenues in terms of education. So it's a really exciting time to be at PCC. There are many opportunities also in terms of enhancing our partnerships with local businesses and the K-12 system and also the four-year institutions. We need to develop further relationships to understand what are the needs of folks in our district and beyond to make sure that we meet those needs, and we are training people for jobs that exist or will exist in a few years' time and giving those skills, but also to ensuring students in high school have an opportunity to get college credit, have an opportunity to realize that college is for them and that they do belong in higher education. So we'll be delighted to have strong partnerships with the City of Portland, Beaverton, and Hillsborough for our Future Connect program. We've done very well at Jefferson High School with our middle college program. And we've also reaching out in terms of trying to identify opportunities for businesses to play a role in this pipeline that we established between high school and jobs. And then the last thing is for us all to realize that education is not confined to a few short years of one's life. Education is a lifelong experience, and we should always continue through our continuing education programs and other programs that we have to ensure that the citizens have opportunities to further their education. Really, to sum it up, we have to be all things to all people at all times. I'm really delighted to be here, and I can't think of a better job in the United States than being president of Portland Community College. It's such a fantastic place to be and has such terrific potential. So I'm looking forward to hearing your questions, because I'm sure there are many of them. But right now, I'll sit down with Matt, and he'll start to ask questions of me. Thank you.
So when we first talked last year, you were 2 months into your job at PCC. So you're 8 months in now, and at the start of this 5-year strategic planning process. What are going to be some of the themes that you think will come out of that process, and can you give us some specific examples?
I think that we're working right now on 5 or 6 strategic themes that really are going to define our direction for the next 5 years. And then we're going to drill down in each of those themes to see how they match in each different area on campus operations. And we're hopeful that everybody on campus will have the opportunity, and is certainly invited to participate in this process, and as well as our community. And we do have a website. We do encourage people to participate and provide us input on the planning process. I think some of the themes are in essence reflective of where are we now and what opportunities are out there. A community college in the 21st century, what does that mean? And how do we meet the needs of the community in myriad ways? You know, technology is really a wraparound service that touches everything on campus. It's not just technology in the classroom and online courses, but how do we use technology in providing services to students in terms of the advising, the mentoring, and all of those things. So it's going to be all-encompassing, and we've not yet defined those 5 or 6, and it would be a mistake for me to say that, because I think that really just we're in the final stages of putting that together and putting it out there.
So accessibility was one of your opening comments. Really important that more Oregonians have the opportunity to attend college, especially in light of the 40-40-20 goals. What sort of things can PCC do to improve accessibility?
Accessibility is really important for us. As I said, we are a college for the community, and so we want to make sure that everybody in the community has the opportunity to take advantage of the education that PCC offers. And we want to make sure that it meets all aspects of our district, in sense of not just working with high schools for dual credit, but also for people who want to be retrained or uptrained. And I think that as we think about our role in that sense, I think what we need to be mindful of is, in essence, what are the needs and how do we meet those needs? Rather than saying, this is what we have, take it or leave it, but we want to be able to make sure we're listening to what people want and giving people that access, as well as, of course, the affordable nature of it. So a lot of times, we see students for whom $100 is a major difference for them. And so we want to make sure that we're doing all the things that we can to be both affordable and accessible. But on the affordability side, we're also very mindful of the quality. So it's in essence, we're thinking about, is this a value proposition that is attractive to students?
So Portland Community College is known for its partnerships with industry, specifically manufacturing. What sort of conversations have you had with those partners in industry, and how do you look to build on those relationships with the private sector?
I think one of the things that we do remarkably well already is that we have advisory councils for our academic programs who are practitioners in the field who come and advise us on the curriculum that we offer, what we need to modify, what we need to add, and what now is obsolete in terms of what we're teaching. And I think that's really important for us to make sure that on the academic side of the house that we have, in essence, a very strong relationship to those potential employers of our students. The other side of it is thinking about what new programs might we wish to offer to meet needs. And of course, we have a strong desire to be part of a dialogue as we're looking to attract new industry, new businesses to our district to show that we are here and we can operate very dynamically to meet the needs of anybody coming to town. A great example of that was the welding program that we now have on Swan Island that we pretty much turned around in about 6 months. And now we have a great welding program out there that's meeting a need. So finding out what those needs are. But the other side of it, I think one of the important aspects is listening to businesses who are saying, for example, we just don't have enough people in manufacturing technology. And then, how do we, in essence, build an academic program and then get students into that program? So we can have a discussion with the business to talk about what their needs are. We can also have a discussion with the high schools about encouraging students to go into the program. But I think just as importantly, we need to get all of the people who have a stake in the game around a table, talk about the issues, and then find a solution. So as much as we want to encourage students to go down that pipeline to into a certain employment opportunity, we also want the businesses at the other end to pull. A great example of that is, I guess I'm hearing a lot these days about mill writing, which is really important, especially for me because my father was a millwright and he never went to college, he never had that opportunity. But now, in essence, we're starting to see some of those skills that are necessary. And so how do we build on those things? And it's not the same as it was, when my father worked as a millwright. My father would have, a boiler suit, and he'd come home covered in oil because he was lying on the floor under a machine. But it's a whole different animal these days. And so those things are really important. We talk a lot about robotics and how automation is taking the place of the old manufacturing assembly lines. But somebody has to fix the robots. Somebody has to fix the things that are going on in the factories. So again, how do we meet those needs?
So although funding for higher education in the state of Oregon has declined over the past decade, it's reversed or slowed those sort of cuts recently. What do you need to do to bring more funding into the system, which is part of meeting the state's 40-40-20 goals? So what are your thoughts on finding new money?
I think several things. Obviously, we need to make the case to the legislator that we do need additional funds to in essence, advance the dial and move things forward. A good example of that is CTE programs. CTE programs are very expensive to operate. It's career technical programs. We need expensive machinery, And it's one of those things that the K through 12 schools struggle with because they, like us, have to buy expensive equipment for those things. So we need to make that case, and the businesses can help us make that case. We need more people in manufacturing technologies. So how do we, in essence, get the legislature to hear the message that if you invest in the community college, you're making an investment in the education of the workforce, and there are jobs out there for that. So I think that's important. I think the other side of it is we also have to find ways to raise more money. Much as the four-year institutions do a terrific job of fundraising, we also need to increase that 1% share to something much more impressive for us. So I think that's good. But I think on the other side of it, we also need to be mindful that we are entrusted with public monies. So do we use our money well? How are we held accountable for any funds that are given to us by the state? And I think that's a very important part of all of the things that we do.
You follow in the footsteps of a transformational leader, Dr. Preston Pulliams. So the number of certificates more than doubled, degrees more than doubled in his 9 years at the college, passed at the time the largest bond measure in state history. What's the challenge of following that sort of transformational leader?
Thanks. Yeah, I'm reminded of this on a weekly basis, and Preston did a great job, and I know as part of leadership transitions that one of the critical elements is to realize that the person before you was pretty smart, and they did a lot of good things. What are those things that they did, and leave them well alone, or just see other things we can do slightly better, but also looking for other opportunities. And I think in terms of Preston and all of the things that he did was just remarkable, both internally and externally, and he really did help advance PCC's image within the community. The bond measure is a terrific example of that, and it was just remarkable to see so many people get behind PCC and support that bond measure. So I think one of the things we have to show as a result of that bond measure, what are we doing? And how are we using the taxpayers' money to good effect and really having a tremendous impact? So I think those things are all very important. I think also, one of the important things is communication. And people are always nervous about a new leader coming in. They think that change is happening, and people are always afraid of change. And higher education is an industry that's just no different than any other in terms of fear of change. But it's in essence trying to let people know that we're in good shape, but we're looking for other opportunities, and we're also trying to think 5 years down the road. The challenges that Preston faced were, for 5 of the years that we were here, we had a 40% growth in enrollment, which is a good problem to have. What we're seeing now as the economy warms up, then our enrollments have turned over. So we're seeing a slight decline in enrollments. And so how do we manage that? How do we, in essence, plan ahead to see where this is taking us and project out? And what are the needs of people as they're coming through our door? Because there are different students coming to us for different reasons as the economy warms up.
Maybe we could go back to the bond measure quickly. So 2008, a $374 million bond measure. What has that allowed PCC to do? What has been accomplished with that bond funding?
Okay, I have how long for that? It's a huge amount of money, frankly, but we've done, I think, a tremendous amount of really good work. So we've expanded our efforts in the southwest side. We've opened a facility at Newburgh, and we're really reaching out to that community. And I encourage you, if you're ever in the area, to go and see this building. It's a beautiful building. It's a platinum LEED building, net carbon zero, fantastic. And we're also reaching out to a community that is far away from the Sylvania campus, the closest campus. Sylvania, we've done a lot of renovations, both for the instructional space as well as the student space. We've also spent a good amount of resources at Rock Creek, putting in about 100,000 square feet of renovations and construction, which really, again, help us meet the needs as we grew dramatically. On the Cascade campus and Killingsworth Albina, we've also put in some new buildings and really put in some great classroom spaces that really have helped us improve our instructional side and capabilities, and also helps a lot with the community, especially with respect to parking. And parking is the one thing I get most emails about, frankly. Used to be parking and snow removal, but fortunately we don't have so much snow here, so that's great. And then, the thing that I guess, of all of the issues, the bond efforts we've done, the one I'm really excited about is out in Southeast. We have doubled the size of instructional space at the Southeast Center, and we will be calling it a Southeast campus later this year, and we're all excited about that. And I think that, in particular, is going to be transformational for that community. We've put in, as I said, double the size of instructional space, a library, student services building, retail outlets, and it's going to attract a lot of people onto our campus for all of the right reasons. And it really, I think, is going to be a great magnet for that community. And we really hope that it will grow our enrollments there, as well as being able to serve so many different populations with new academic offerings out there.
So we've talked about the state's ambitious education goals, the 40-40-20 plan. PCC, as the largest educational institution in the state with 90,000 students, also, as I understand it, serves more high school students than any single high school in the state. Talk a little bit about the importance of PCC in helping the state meet those goals.
I'll talk in general terms about community colleges and the 40-40-20, and then I'll drill down and talk about PCC. So when you think about the 40-40-20 plan, then we play a key role in each one of those three different areas. So the middle 40, which is 40% of the students by 2025 having a 2-year degree, clearly that's our domain. That's what we've been doing for years and what we'll continue to do. The other 40% is something that we're really excited about, because we do have an ever-increasing number of students who start with us and then they transfer to four-year institutions. So 40% of the graduating class, as I said, of PSUs took classes with us. It's about 4,000 students, I think, who transfer. And then we also have hundreds of students every year who transfer to the institutions in Eugene or Corvallis and other places without the state. So we do have a very large transfer population, which I think is great for us. So we are driving in a significant way the other 40%. And then on the 20% side, we're playing a role, obviously, in dual credit in high school. And in essence, those dual credit programs are really important because, of course, it gives high school students the opportunity to get college credit before they graduate from high school. High schools are also requiring college credit before they give you a high school diploma. But also, I think one of the things that we do is that we encourage students to sample college and a college classroom, or to come onto our campus and realize that the disconnect is not as vast as they may have thought, and college is for them, and they feel motivated, so they will stay in school, they will graduate from high school in larger number because of the dual credit and the partnerships that we have with the K through 12. And of course, we're playing our role in GED. We have over 4,000 students enrolled on an annual basis in GED and adult basic education courses. So we're really touching every single element of the 40-40-20 plan, and PCC aims to continue to do those things. It recognizes that we have a significant role to play in the state, in the 40-40-20 plan, but for all of the right reasons. We want to make sure that students who want to go to a four-year institution have a really quality educational experience with us, and so the transition that they make from a 2-year school to a 4-year school is almost transparent. So they are ready for the rigors of a baccalaureate degree. And the same thing in terms of students in high school. We want to make sure that their transition from high school to college is also seamless as much as we possibly can.
I'm going to talk about the partnership that PCC has with Jefferson High School. It's known as Jefferson Middle College. I looked up some data on this. Between 2007 and 2012, that program served 378 students. 95% were first-generation college students. What's the future of that program? Can that program be expanded, and are there other programs like that in the future for PCC?
Yeah, it's one of the programs of which we're obviously particularly proud. That the partnership with Jefferson is really important to us, and we have been able to have, I think, a transformational effect on the students who have been in that program. And it's one that we really enjoy because I was out there recently with some folks from the Oregon Community Foundation and talking to the students and asking what their plans were for once they've graduated. And the three students who spoke up said, I want to be a teacher, I want to be a nurse, or I want to be a social worker. So in essence, they're sort of thinking about giving back and going into those industries that really are going to benefit others. So that's a great feeling for us to have that. And I think one of the great advantages that we have is just the proximity, that the students can be in the Jefferson School and then come across the road and be in our Cascade campus, and in essence, feel like they're a college student already. So as they are first-generation students, there's always a little bit of nervousness about that. So the more that we can give them a comfort level about being on college, at college and giving them that nurturing environment as well as motivating them, then I think that's great. The parallel program, it's similar in some ways, is the Future Connect program, where we take students who are first generation or come from, I guess, underserved backgrounds in terms of underrepresented minority students. Then we are also doing a fantastic job with the help from the City of Portland, Beaverton and Hillsborough. Beaverton and Hillsborough just started this year. They kicked in $100,000. We raised money to match that, and those particular schools, school districts, each gave us 50 students in the fall, and we have around a 96% retention rate from fall to winter, which is almost unheard of. And that's been such a successful program that there's now a bill that's being discussed down the road in Salem, Aspirations to College, which is being sponsored by Representative Gallegos and Parrish, and that will hopefully set aside money for the state, the community colleges, to apply that sort of program in their areas. So we're looking to use the things that work, the best practices from PCC, and seeing how that can be applied across the state. So the same thing with middle college. It's a program that works, and so it's great to be able to go out and talk about these things that we're trying and that work. But I think, are there other things that we can do? Absolutely. And should we? Yes, we should.
There's another bill in Salem this session that would study providing free community college for all Oregon high school graduates. That bill passed the House this week, back to the Senate for concurrence, then likely to the governor. How would that impact Portland Community College?
That's one of those good problems to have. I think clearly there's a study which will look at providing free tuition for students coming to community college. And so if I'm a student, I'm making this value proposition in terms of do I go to a community college for free or do I go somewhere else? And so that's an exciting opportunity for many students. So I think that's great. And frankly, I was a beneficiary of a program like that, growing up in England. My education was paid for completely by the government, including room and board and books and everything else. So I can see the power of a program like that. The thing that obviously makes us nervous is, well, how does a community college pay for that? So obviously, we just can't absorb a lot of students without getting the resources to make those things happen. And I think also if we are mindful of the fact that what programs are those students going into and making sure that we have the appropriate funding for those programs, I think are really important. It is a study, and if it comes to fruition, it's probably 2015 before it actually becomes sort of put into practice. But I think that there's a lot more discussion going on, but it's really exciting for me that in Oregon we are coming up with great ideas about higher education, and we're thinking about innovative ways, and frankly, we're getting a lot of good national press for just some of these great ideas that we're coming up with. So that's pretty exciting. And we're ready for whatever happens, and you know, as I said, it's a good problem to have. And we think that, again, it's an opportunity for us to reach out to students and address the affordability issue and address the access issue at the same time.
So the state obviously has very ambitious goals for higher education. In the past 2 years, though, enrollment has slipped a little bit at PCC, and I imagine I would find the same trend if I looked at other community colleges and universities. What are your thoughts on how to reverse that? Because it does need to be reversed in order for the state to hit its ambitious goals.
Yeah, we have seen from, if you look at this winter term comparison to last winter term, I think we're down by about 7%. If we looked at fall to fall, we were down by about 3% for the past couple of years. Other community colleges in the state are seeing, declines in the double digits. So, but I guess the thing is that, is it a negative or a positive? In essence, it's a positive, I think, because we're seeing the signs that the economy is warming up and students are seeing there are opportunities elsewhere for them directly. But I think that if we look long term, and there's a great study done out of Georgetown this year, which showed that in maybe 5 years' time, I can't remember the exact time frame, but 70% or more of students will need at least a baccalaureate degree to get a job. So I think that's a telling thing that we're seeing, in essence, that higher education is the key to success in terms of employment at the end of the day. And I think that we have to, in essence, do the appropriate amount of educating and communicating with people to say that education is valuable to you, not just in terms of the immediate job, chance of getting a job, but also in the long term. And the return on that investment is really important to be able to tout. And we always talk about what is the return on a 2-year degree or a 4-year degree. So those things are really very important to be able to put out there. And in terms of, so what are we doing to address the decline? Well, some of it is, what we'll see is that as we talk about all of the different programs that we offer, that we'll see some of them increase and we'll see some of them decrease. So how do we best, in essence, manage those different populations and address those issues? But I think one of the things that's really important for us is to ensure that we're able to meet the state's needs with respect to employment and future jobs and building the economy, as well as, of course, ensuring that that workforce remains current in their skills.
So now we're going to open up for the audience Q&A portion of the program. If you have a written question on an index card, please hold it up high so the City Club staff can collect it. We will take questions from the audience. As always, we invite members to the microphone to ask their question. Asking questions at the Friday Forum is a benefit of City Club members. Before asking your question, please identify yourself as a City Club member, and please make sure it's a question, and try to keep it to 30 seconds. And I will read at least one index card question. Please.
Hello, and thanks for coming. Carol Witherell, City Club member. I know you touched on this, and I'm inspired by a recent, very excellent program on CTE education. And how well it's serving many students. Do you see any possibilities for an innovative collaboration and leadership roles between PCC and schools within the Portland Public School system that offer CTE career and technical education programs? How might students in both programs, budgets, and curricula all be strengthened, as well as local industries and neighborhoods from such a collaboration?
Yeah, thanks for bringing it up. So it's been an important part of my dialogue with K through 12 leaders since I've got here, and recognizing how important CTE is. And the issue is sort of revolves a lot around resources. It's very expensive to have a laboratory which has, CNC milling machines in there. And so, I can imagine that high schools find it difficult to remain current and provide those sorts of latest and greatest machines for students to learn on. So I think one of the discussions that we've been having is to, in essence, say, we don't use our machines 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, so surely there's a way that we can work together to use those facilities for high school students, as well as using them for obviously our own programs. In essence, making greater use of the time available to us on those machines. And it serves several purposes. Obviously, it gives the students the opportunity to work on equipment on our campus, but also it brings them to campus, and they get to realize that community college is actually a great place for them, and they do belong here, and they can transition from high school to community college. And also, we've had some really great discussions between our faculty and the high school faculties about curriculum, to making sure there is seamless transitions along the way, not just in CTE, but also in many other programs. And it's one of the facets that I'm really impressed with our faculty, is the way that they provide a lot of outreach and helping not just our students, but also wanting to partner with other folks, businesses, industry, and high schools to enable students to get the best possible education. And again, that's seamless transition, which is also important.
Chris Andre, City Club member, thank you so much for your vision. It's inspiring. I'm glad to be here. My question is, of course, a lot of what goes on, of course, in the community college system could be thought of as vocational training. And in Germany, many of these types of vocations, they have a terrific system of where people are apprenticed to others, leaving higher education to be higher education and not more sort of lateral education. What about these types of apprenticeships working here?
I think one of the things that we endeavor to do within our various curricula is to offer internship opportunities for our students, so they do have a chance to go out and work at local businesses to get that practical experience. I think it's very hard to, in essence, fit all of the coursework and background and preparations into the curriculum that comprises a 2-year degree or a 1-year certificate. But I think one of the things we've been talking a lot about is the very thing about apprenticeships and finding ways for our students to have those practical experiences as a culminating experience of their academic endeavors within a degree program that we have. So I think as we talk a lot about preparing students with soft skills, it's also, they get to use both the textbook skills, the practical skills, and the soft skills in a real life environment. And what we find is, of course, that if students go into an apprenticeship or an internship or some practical experience, then their chances of getting a job at that place are very high, or that the fact that they have something else to put on their resume which makes them stand out from the other people who are applying for the job. They're not only book smart, but they've also been and done those things in practice.
Hi, I'm Leslie Zenner, and I'm a member here at the City Club of Portland. So my question is, I had a lot of experience and great experiences taking classes at PCC, both from the time I was a junior in high school, taking some extra stuff to bump up my skills, to as an adult returning at career changes. But one of the things I've witnessed in watching my children and some of their friends also do that is there's sort of this, we've had a conversation here at the City Club about the good part of the GED. With that said, high school completion as a finishing goal, if they're trying to add on to their high school program or just finish. It seems like we're losing so many kids statistically to not graduating. What in your strategic plan is pulling in sort of that goal set and partnering, I don't know whether it's with the high schools or it seems to me more with the children themselves or young adults, to keep them motivated, to get them more interested in actually staying in the process of the classroom, right? Because a GED, you may study and take a test, but if their goal is to actually become, my question's getting long, isn't it? But if the goal is to keep them in higher education, they've got to get used to and hopefully enjoy the experience of being part of a class. That's my question. Thank you.
So let me sort of give you a couple of thoughts that I've had on this as I've thought about this over the years, and I think the one thing that really strikes a chord with me in essence is to make things relevant. So if I'm a student in high school, then why is math important? Why is physics important? You know, I just want to go out and get a job, and I want to, you know, become an engineer. So having, in essence, an understanding of relevancy. So what is it like to be an engineer? And what do you need to learn in order to excel in that field? So then when you realize that to be a good engineer, you have to study mathematics. It's really important. And physics also. So then they can go back to the classroom with that understanding, which is greater motivation for them to excel in those fields. But if we don't make it relevant, we don't apply those particular sort of skills, then we're going to find that students will say, well, I don't know why I have to do 2 years of chemistry in high school. It makes no sense to me. But in essence, trying to say, well, how does this all fit together? And I think there's a lot of importance in terms of making sure that students make that connection between what they're studying and what their ultimate goal is. But the caveat, and this is a whole other long discussion about a liberal arts education, in terms of why it's important why is philosophy a great discipline to study? Why is political science a good field to study? What do I learn from those? And it goes back to those soft skills, which also enable us to be successful outside of our sort of main discipline.
If I could jump in there with an audience question, it's sort of a natural follow-up. How important is civics education to preparing students for college and career? And what role can PCC's dual credit program play in helping students prepare to make a positive impact in the community?
I think one of the things that is, as I said, is important is that students have a rounded education and can understand the value of all disciplines. You know, I always say that when dinosaurs roamed the earth and I was in high school, my best subjects were Latin, French, and English literature. So I decided to study physics. I didn't say logic was one of my best subjects either. So, but I do have a great appreciation for the humanities, for the social sciences, because I've studied them and I found them to be important to us. So civics is a good example. So when we talk about civics, we talk about ethics, we talk about leadership skills, teams building skills, time management skills. Again, it goes back to these soft skills that enable our students to be successful. I think statistic I remember that the average traditional student, upon graduating from a four-year institution, by the time they reach their mid-30s, have changed jobs about 12 times. And I won't tell you what percentage of them actually, upon graduation from a four-year school, go back and live at home, because that might freak some of you out. But I think that we need to give those students those skills to be able to be successful no matter what job they have. So that goes back to that issue about, you know, what are those core skills and soft skills over and above what happens in the classroom. And I think it also ties down to the idea we want to give students the opportunity to solve problems for themselves, and not just to say, well, it's not in the textbook, so I don't know how to do that. We want to give them a challenge of being able to think for themselves outside of the textbook, outside of the curriculum, and give them that confidence in the environment of a college environment so that they can then tackle whatever is put in front of them for the remaining 40 years of their working life.
I believe we have time for one more question.
Chris Nielsen, City Club member and past president of the Portland Community College Foundation Board of Directors. I have an obvious question, I think. You have spoken of the need to grow philanthropy as a means of supporting our students and programs and all students and programs in higher ed. Can you speak specifically about some of the ways philanthropy has helped PCC and how the community might help PCC in the future?
I didn't give Chris that question, but it is a really important one. You know, as I said, I spent 15 years in the Ivy League, and I know that philanthropy in the Ivy League is really important. But it's equally as important to us in community colleges. What we've been able to do is to raise money and change people's lives. I think last year we gave about $950,000 in scholarships from the foundation. And when you think about that and you divide it by our tuition, which is about $4,300 tuition and fees for the year, it's a lot of money. But only 40% of the people who applied were successful in getting a scholarship, which there's so much demand out there. And it's important that we continue to provide opportunity for students who come from from households that have a very low income. The Future Connect program, we have a lot of families who have less than $20,000 a year on which to live. It's hard to imagine even for them to afford $4,300 a year for education. So it's really important for us to recognize the fact that those students, the ones who would never dream of going to college, not because they're not able to manage it academically, but because it's totally unaffordable for them. And so what we do when we provide that opportunity is we change their lives. And I wish there were students here today who could speak to that, because they tell the story way better than I can, and it's very emotional. And these students are obviously affected by the generosity of others. And in some cases, they just are amazed that somebody is willing to invest in them, and they're going to be successful as a result of that. But we also have to realize that not only are we changing their lives, but we're changing the lives of their brothers and sisters who will come behind them and see, well, my older brother went to college, so therefore I can go to college. And their family members will benefit as a result of that, and their neighbors will benefit as a result of realizing the value of an education, and their sons and daughters and grandsons and granddaughters. So you see, it has this cascading effect. And even a small amount of money has a tremendous impact on the life of a student. And it's one of the things that I love so much about this job, is that I can go to bed at night thinking that we're changing the lives of so many people in ways that we'll see for generations to come. And it's really a great feeling, and we're really thankful to all those people who recognize that and continue to support PCC.
Powerful statement and way to end the program today. Unfortunately, we have run out of broadcast time for further questions and have to stop for the day. And as we close, please join me in offering our sincere thanks to Dr. Jeremy Brown and Matt Kish. We are adjourned.